Oh, there's Rina. Hi, Rina. How are you doing? Wow, it's been ages. Can't hear you.
Yes, nice to see you, Betty. I just messaged you to say hi.
Oh, sorry. I just closed the phone now.
It's fine, it's fine. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you.
I think it's time, Vijay.
I
Should I?
I admitted the people. We
Now
are going live.
I'll just disable the waiting room.
Yes, please do.
Okay.
So should we start?
Sure, Prashant.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to SACYN's 10th webinar. So just to give you a brief introduction of what SACYN is, actually, we've been giving introduction of SACYN in every webinar, and some of you might be familiar with it. For those who are new to this webinar, we would like to give you a short introduction. So SACYN stands for South Asia Christian Youth Network, and this network was established in the year of 2002, and it involves countries like Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. So what SACYN is, it's all about inspiring, preparing, strengthening young Christian adults to cross bridges, to encounter and share the faith and lives with those who are from different circumstances, faiths, languages, and cultures, ethnicities, and nationalities. So we've been conducting annual program until 2019. So we used to conduct annual meetings, leadership trainings, and different conferences. And we were planning to hold a big conference in the year 2020-21, but then unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we were not able to go ahead with our plan. So we have switched to this virtual platform, hence this webinar. So we've been starting this webinar from August of 2020, and this is our 10th webinar. Over the year, we have been covering different topics on financial crisis, women in leadership, mental health, and recently, last month, we had also covered Myanmar's issue. And today we are focusing on art. So we have seen like different expressions of art in our Christianity community. So we will be exploring on the topic with our beautiful set of panelists, and we do have a moderator, Bijoy, from India. So he will be moderating the rest of the webinar. So over to you, Bijoy.
Thanks, Prashant. Thanks for the nice and brief introduction to the webinar. This comes from a very, very deeply personal space for me. I have struggled with my own journey in Christianity, in art, in the intermingling of the two in a very big way. So when the topic was also being discussed, there was a lot of angst. I didn't know where to go with it. I wrote 3 drafts of it. My friend Stephen here will tell you that I was talking to him at night trying to figure out what do I say. And then we finally, between the team that puts this together, we came up with the name Art for God's Sake, Finding the Creator in Our Creations. Normally, I would introduce the topic, but instead this time I'm going to do a slightly reverse approach. What I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the panelists so that when we do get into the webinar, we get in with the last thought that I shared. So let me start with Debbie as the lady on the panelist, and also as someone I've known for over a decade. Debbie Ralte is a musician from Azol in Mizoram who has been a recording artist since she was 11. She's been a gospel singer. She was won state competitions, and her music videos were the rage in Mizoram. She then went on to become a missionary, focused on youth ministry as part of a tie-up between the Church Mission Society UK and Mizoram Presbyterian Church Synod. She worked for 4 years with Kerigma Youth Ministry in Bangalore, which she calls the best years of her missionary life. She is currently married to another musician who's a Presbyterian minister, and she's a mother to 2 wonderful children. Our star for the evening, because from the time that we thought about this topic, the first name that was suggested was Benny Brother's name. Debbie, we knew Benny Brother was the name that, just was the first choice everybody had. If Benny Brother can make it, it would be great. So Dr. Benny Prasad sent me a very, very long write-up about him from his webpage. And he said, take whatever you want from there. And it is impossible to even write down his achievements in one screen. So let me just try and do a condensed version of it, which touches upon as many things as possible. So Benny overcame health struggles, even suicidal thoughts, before being called by Jesus to use his music to take his message to the world. He's traveled for 13 years to 257 nations. He went on to break 6 world records, invented the bongo guitar, and performed at various world level music, cultural, and sporting events, Olympics included. He quit his world concert tours at some point and said, I'm going to go back to my home base. And then he went on to open a 400-seater cafe with his wife, Zanbeni Prasad, in Bangalore called Chai 316 to cater to college students facing life issues. His wife also is a fantastic musician, fantastic singer, great voice. I spend most of my day today just going through their music videos, and the range that they provide is excellent. Benny Brother led me to Mark Raja, and that was a name that just came about. And when Mark and I got talking, we realized we both have the same kind of struggles. We're both professionals who went on to use our art elsewhere. We all straight from our art backgrounds to the corporate world that we live in. So Mark is a product designer, he's a system thinker and a creative analyst. He's a graduate from the fine arts discipline and founder of the integrated arts movement. He works with Christian artists on the intersection and meeting of arts and Christianity. He lives in Bangalore with his wife, Susan, and children, Nathan and Angela. Now, this is why I paused here and I introduce my panelists first, because they make up the best part of this webinar. Their experiences, their personal travels are going to lead us into reflections on the topic, art for God's sake, finding the creator in our creations. Let me just do a quick brief on the topic itself. Art has always been born out of the cultures of a place or people. And as Christianity expanded from Israel to the corners of the world, we have seen various manifestations of Christianity in art. The museums housing beautiful paintings and sculptures of biblical figures are just testament to that. Even in the Bible, we see expressions of art through the detailed instructions given to Moses, King David's dance, Solomon's verses, and many, many more. The patronage of church for various forms of arts and artists, from sculpture to theater, to paintings, to music and dance, enable them to, enable these artists to work and use art as a language of expression and faith. At the same time, we have seen periods where arts and Christianity have found themselves at odds with each other. There are orthodox views often coming in on the way of using and adapting art to showcase and tell Christian stories. As time has passed and there was a shift to art for art's sake, which projected a more secular approach to art, these differences have grown. The fact that Christianity has taken different journeys in different parts of the world, often amalgamating and accepting local cultures into its expression, has also raised questions for some believers. Some churches embrace this diversity of expression, especially through art, while others believe there is a fixed and orthodox way to worship. Many art forms in South Asia too have been born out of local faiths and cultures, and there has been strong opposition from some in separating the art from its origin. The opposition is even more to use of such an art form in Christian worship or programs. When we were discussing the webinar with the panelists, one of the questions that came up is, what is art? How do you define art? A dictionary definition says the making of objects, images, music that are beautiful or that express feelings. Then comes the question, is television art? Is pop music art? Is ballet art? Is beatboxing art? All of these questions come up. Art, like the dictionary definition, is simply something that is beautiful. It's a use of talents that are born within and that express our feelings. For some, art is just sculpture. For some, art is spoken word. For some, art is theater. art is what we feel. Art is something that makes us feel. And when we use it to express ourselves in a different way, to witness for Christ, it becomes Christian art. That is where I will leave this at this particular point of time, because I don't think it's possible to explain art or what Christian art is in a few words. In the interest of brevity, considering I've taken up a little bit of time, let me just jump in and ask all my panelists to speak. Um, let me start with Debbie, Mark, and Benny Brother in that order. The first question that came up when we were discussing the topic is, should art have a place in the church? The actions of King David before the ark suggest there is space for it. But beyond this, what does the Bible say about this, if it does say something? Now, considering it's just the beginning of the webinar, Debbie, Mark, Benny, feel free to talk about your personal journeys also in how you have also experienced art as part of this answer. Debbie?
Thank you, Bijoy. I feel that, yes, art have a place in church, and I can only speak from experience. In Mizoram, we have choirs, worship dance, short plays like drama, and recitation, solo, etc., like among the Christian youths. In many traditional churches like mine, this type of arts are not yet fully embraced. But I'm glad to share with you that our churches in Mizoram are slowly opening up to uh, accepting young artists with different skills like dancing and acting and singing. Um, from my own experience, I feel that music should be an integral part of any church. Um, when we look at the Bible, we can see the importance of songs and music throughout the whole Bible. I know you're all familiar with that, but let me just um, talk about when Jesus was born, there was a choir. And when he will come back, he will be back with the trumpets. And we see that. And when the whole book of Psalm is also dedicated to music and songs, and it's inviting all of us to praise and worship God with instruments and our voices and everything that we have. And in the Old Testament also, when King Saul was troubled by an evil spirit, David's beautiful music actually caused his evil spirit to depart from Saul. And this account reveals that beautiful godly music creates an environment that drives evil spirit away. And when Paul and Silas were in the Philippine prison, they had no idea whether they will be hanged or beheaded or flogged again. What did they do? They sang hymns to God at midnight, and suddenly there was a great earthquake, and immediately all the doors are opened and their chains were broken. They were free to preach again. I'm just thinking about King Jehoshaphat, like he appointed singers to lead the army, and they did not have to fight the battle. The battle was already won, and by the songs that they sang. And mm, I'm just thinking about also the walls of Jericho fell, and that we also see that. So we see again that God accepts the offering of praise and makes it an occasion for his power. Like singing to God and making music is not merely a response to his grace, but also a weapon of spiritual warfare. Like music and singing is serious business to God. And so art in any form could be an integral part of worship, like dancing, singing, acting, and all sorts of arts. I think it should be an integral part of worshiping God. So that's what I can share. Yeah.
Yeah, Debbie, do you want to talk about your personal journey with how you've done, how art has worked for you?
For me, I can only speak about singing and music. Music has always been a big part of my life. When I was 11 years old, I started singing, and but at first I wasn't singing about. No, I don't sing devotional songs. I always sing inspirational songs like "Hero" from Mariah Carey and all those other songs. I love those songs, but I used to sing. I was 11 years old. I was just a young girl, and I used to sing in front of thousands of people, and being a young girl and singing, I would get praises. People will talk, tell me good things about how well I sing. But during that time, there was always a void inside me. Like, why am I doing this? Those praises were good. I love it, but it doesn't, you know, I feel that like there's something missing. And this one function, it was a big function. I was invited to sing there. And that time, something went wrong with the power or something like that. And I couldn't sing, I couldn't sing well. It was really bad. And I was about 13, I think, and I felt like people were rejecting me. Like, I didn't get the usual praises and all those things. And I didn't want to sing for one whole year. I didn't want to sing because I singing for the love of music was not enough for me. So I was like, mm, my dad, he kept encouraging me to not waste my talent, but I used to tell him I don't know why I'm singing. And one time I was invited to a church to sing, and there I found the reason, why there was a void inside me, and I felt that God was calling me to sing for His praise. So from that time, since then I started traveling to different places and churches and different gospel functions, and I sang, and I love to inspire people and see the change in them. So it was really a good time for me. Then I felt like that was not enough, and I knew that God was calling me to be a missionary. And what you have to understand, among the measles, when we give ourselves up to become a missionary, it means that you have to leave your mom, your dad. If you're a singer, you might not sing again. You don't know where God is going to send you. So for me, it was a sacrifice, and then I wanted to make that sacrifice for God. I wanted to be that instrument. And for about uh, 2 to 3 years, I was struggling with that. So at last, God answered my prayer, and He sent me to Kerigma among young people, and I was singing. And before that, God taught me how to sing in the spirit. Like, I can sing gospel song every day, but might not inspire or change any other person. But God was teaching me how to sing with the spirit, and He shows me how it heals other people and like making a positive change in other people. And that was amazing. I didn't do that, and God taught me how to do that. And it was, for me, it was a really amazing revelation. So um, after that, I change my life. Like, I prepare myself. If I'm going to sing one song, I prepare myself as if I'm going to deliver a whole sermon. I pray and I practice. I pray, I practice, and I do that on and on. And then God bless me, and I was working with Kerigma, and like I told you, that was the most amazing time of my life. For me as a person, I was healing through God's Kerigma ministry, and also I was teaching other people and sharing them about my life, and it was the most amazing thing. And what I learned from back home, I was raised in a really traditional Christian family. So for me, uh, preaching the word of God is like telling other people the gospel. But Kerigma has taught me that God could use anything, like dancing. And for us, what I still remember is whenever we have functions, Jacob would be fussing, trying to wear Becky's shoes, and he didn't own any Converse, so he wanted to wear the Converse. For the young people, it's for us also. We were really trying hard. We were really trying hard to fit in with the young people. We don't want to look like aunties, So we change ourselves for that. And I think that God could use anything, like songs and performing arts, like performing drama and all those things. God showed me that He could use anything. And while I was in one of our meetings with the we have with CMS, I met Aunt Julie Scarf, and also I met Johnny, who was using sports as as a way to teach young people and bring them closer to God. And Aunt Julie Scarf was also using salsa dancing, and I was amazed. And from there, God has taught me a lot. So yeah, mm,
Thank you,
that's
Deb.
my
Thank you.
journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you for dipping in, because I saw you get emotional also in between while you were talking. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for dipping into that bit of emotion to share with us. Mark, would you like to come in at this point of time? Mark, are you there? Mark, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So when you say church, I assume that it is the congregational worship time, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
how I would like to see this is, I don't know why we Christians try to mm, give this rules for artists, because I used to ask. Uh, oh, why do you make a Christian like, we ask artists to make Christian art or certain things. Do we say the same thing to a farmer to make a Christian apples or rice? So basically, I think we misunderstood our callings. So we try to fit into what we think is right or spiritual or something. So God, when he saved me as my whole being. Okay, so it is not just my particular religious thing on Sunday morning that he likes me if I am you know in my in my leisure, or as a parent, or as a designer, or as a everything. So he when we worship God, though as a congregation, of course we worship God all the time, 24/7, but when we meet, I think God is wants me, my whole being, to give unto him, and also to serve others. Okay, so I think the church is not just to worship is not just singing. Worship is serving my fellow believer in the church, or in the community. Or so I think art has, as an artist, okay, as an artist, I have the responsibility and the calling to use my gifts to serve him. And uh, saying that the thing is, the other part is that the church congregational worship is not to display my talent, but it is basically to help the church focuses on singing, and focus on teaching, focus on what the aim is about. So sometimes I should not think that it is my show or my presentation, that I have the right to do what God gave me, but rather I have to serve my neighbor, I have to serve my brother and sister, and they become important. If That's why I feel art has for example, if I what do you call okay, if I jazz music, okay, that doesn't mean that I have to force that. If I'm a jazz musician, that doesn't mean I have to force that to my church, because I think I have to humble myself and serve my community in whichever way, because creativity and talent is not that, okay, I only play jazz music, or I only do spoken word. If the church is not giving a spoken word, that doesn't mean that they are dishonoring me, or thing like that. So both things are important. God honors me completely who I am, but in the congregational worship, I think as an artist, uh, I am called to serve my community, uh, where in that best fits them, because sometimes dancing might be a good form in some places, and another place it is not. So I don't need to judge other people for not accepting dance. So I think as a as a calling as an artist, we need to be serving the church through our skill. And if it is offensive for something, for some, I need to put my neighbor first than me. So it is in that attitude I need to bring art into my worship. And even if I'm a farmer, maybe how can I serve my church as a farmer? Okay, it doesn't mean that, okay, farmer should not come into the church and sell or give, not even sell, but maybe prepare a feast for the church. So I think that all those opportunities are should be honored. And there are two sides, I would say. It has a place because it is a gift from God to this local church. And also I should not bring art as important thing, rather than I need to bring my brother and sister as more valuable and important, and how can I serve them. So yeah, that is.
You're forcing me to rethink some of my questions later because of what you just said already.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark. But you wanted to also talk about your personal experience, as you called it. You and I were
Right.
discussing our failure to use our
Right.
talents, right?
So earlier, of course, evangelical mindset was art is a tool. Okay, it's like a mic system or your projector system in your church. It is more like a tool to use for something. Okay, so you have to use art for evangelism, or you have to use art to make church service look cool, or something like that. That was the idea. So I was influenced by that, and though I did my fine arts, I was more thinking, what is the use of really taking art seriously when it is not serving the so-called frames I have, like evangelism or something. So maybe as an artist, I only need to do gospel dramas or uh, church posters, that kind of thing. As a visual artist, I did my painting as my discipline. So that's why I came out. I said, okay, why waste time? In those days, there was no Facebook and all, right? When you paint, nobody sees it. Okay, only the friends around you, probably when they get a chance, you could show. I can't carry my canvases and go and show people. So what is the use? So that was the kind of utilitarian mindset which we evangelical churches have. So I did not take that seriously. So then, maybe 10, 15, 10 years back, I started realizing that, a vocation as an artist is a different, it's a calling. Okay, and it doesn't mean that I need to make Christian art. I need to make art. I need to make good art. God has called me to make good art. So I am supposed to be faithful to that. But now my journey life has turned many directions, but I still start doing writing as my expression now. And I still do design, which normally naturally comes to me. But I have really not painted much. And I wish, I don't know, I can restart it, but I think I've involved more writing now, so I'm focusing there. So that's what I wish to develop and honor God through that. So yeah, so that is how life has turned. Unfortunately, I would encourage people not to, if God has called you as an artist, take art seriously. If God has called you as a doctor, do you want to be a slack about it? Then you are not a good doctor. You are not supposed to be actually doing. You are actually, you know. Throwing away the gift that God has called you to. So if you, being a doctor is as important, as being an artist or as being a pastor or yeah. So take art seriously if you think God has called you for, and serve in the church. If some people are called to serve the church, and some people are not called to serve the church as an artist, but maybe in the culture. So be there and make art that honors God. That doesn't mean a Christian art. Okay, so there is nothing called Christian art. It's just a biblical themed art or something. So everything if you do to honor God is actually, I would say, an art for God's sake. Okay, so yeah, that's
Thank you.
my.
Thank you, Mark. Mark has also been using his community skills at this point of time. I have not been able to catch Mark at a good time because of the volunteer work he's doing for the pandemic at this point of time in his city. So thank you for that also. And I hope to hear you talk about some of that also later on how people can also engage with society later. But the person a lot of people have been waiting to hear from, Benny, you have no idea the number of people who send me photographs of them with you from performances that you have done across Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bombay. The number of people who said, "Oh, Benny is there. Oh, I went to Chai 316. Oh, I went here. Oh, I saw him there." So the number of people who are here because they saw your name on the poster, which is why I kind of, let the appetite kind of build up before I brought you in. So, brother, tell me what is your take on this question, and feel free to talk about your journey.
Yeah, thank you, Bijoy. Now, with regards to art, I was one who had no form of art at all when I grew up. The first 16 years of my life, I had nothing, no joy, no talents. Like I went for music lessons. First day, the guitar teacher said, "Don't come back." I tried to study, but I had so many questions that I could not go past my questions to study actually what the answer is. And so my teachers threw me off, said that you're not good enough for that. And I was born to very educated parents in a very educated society, have a surname who is known for reforming education in Andhra Pradesh. So I was a complete epitome of a disaster for art in any form. You can take anything. I tried to draw a straight line, it became a circle. By the time I tried to do a circle, it turned into something else. My art teacher threw me out of the class, but I enjoyed being thrown out so much that she had to keep me back in the class because I had more fun outside the class. So you see, there was nothing good in me. And that is one of the reasons is because art was so limited in the church that I could not see. Like I was a very inquisitive person. I used to think a lot, ask questions a lot, but many times the questions were not really appropriate. Like, one of my cousins has memorized the entire train timetable of India. You name the train, he will tell you every detail. And everybody was impressed. But my question was, why do you want to memorize the train timetable when we have it in the form of a book? So that is how I used to think. And so I was really not fitting in that box. And at 16 is when I gave my life to Jesus. And, one of the incentives of accepting Jesus as your personal savior for me was getting art back into my life. Now, the challenge was, how can this be exhibited in the church? Because the church understanding of art was very limited. Either it can be, depending on the type of church, it can be a monocolor, it can be just purely white. But when I got baptized at the age of 16 in an Assemblies of God church, I was dressed up in complete jeans. My shirt was jeans, my pant was jeans, all the others were white and white. And they just said, what is happening with you? Why did you dress so whirly? I said, this is my special day. I want to dress with my best set of clothes. And for me, jeans was something that I loved. And so, I was pushing these boundaries from the time I gave my life to Jesus. At 19, I became a pastor of a Baptist church. And I love to use humor as part of my preaching. And, pastors, it's not just about preparing a sermon, but it is also how do you deliver that sermon to people so that they can understand. So I use a lot of humor, but at 19, I was told that I'm not supposed to laugh. I'm not supposed to wear a t-shirt. I was a youth pastor, and only collared shirts, and you have to wear black shoes, preferably Bata, but not Reebok or any. So you see, for me, I wanted to look as youthful as possible, but because I had this role of being a pastor, reverence as well as the holiness in your life was defined by a certain type of clothing. And then came music. I picked up guitar at the age of 19. I don't have the gift of singing. My mother told me till she was alive, she told me do anything in life except singing, because that is not what gift you have. And I got married to Zan Beni. She says the same thing, do anything you want, but please don't sing, because I am tone deaf. You know, tone deaf is you think you're singing right, but everyone knows that you are not right. So that is very, very tough, you know. So I picked up the guitar as an instrumental artist. Now, instrumental artist can be part of the worship team, but cannot be on his own or on her own. And here, God called me to being a solo guitar instrumentalist. And that was not considered to be worship, because that was considered to be performance. Worship is when you sing. People forgot that when David played to Saul, Bible does not say that he sang. He wrote many psalms. He would have sung many things. But what we see is that when he played in front of Saul, Bible only talks that he played the harp, does not say that he sang. And he played it so well that even the devil could not remain there. It was just so good, so anointed, so skillful. So for me, I believe that I could use my art in the form of an instrumental piece in order to share the gospel. So people said, how can you do that? Words should be there. Without words, you cannot share the good news. See, we are limiting the power of art through God's hand on it by saying that as long as I understand, okay, then it can be a blessing. If I cannot understand, then that is not worship. That is not Christian, or so on and so forth. So people really limited me. People prophesied openly. I still remember in Bahrain, I finished doing a concert, and this man stood up in the church and he said, Benny, that was so wonderful, but I prophesied that you will start singing so that you can share the good news of Jesus. And it was so hard that I'm telling that God has done this in my life, but people say that this is not art because it does not fit into their mindset, into their understanding. But I continued, you know, I'm a stubborn character. So sometimes this stubbornness works out for a benefit, that I kept going on, and God strengthened me. And I was able to use my instrumental music in all these places. Today, people come up and they would say, wow, Benny, that was so nice that we saw you perform in North Korea. You know, in North Korea, for the 100th birth anniversary of their founder, Kim Il-sung, we were, I forgot how many artists were there. There were different artists from different countries. I was the only Indian representative. They had a parade like the Olympic Games. And I was the only Indian. Everyone else came as a team. I was the only person who came alone. And when I played My Jesus, My Savior, Lord, There Is None Like You, I still remember the captain of the Mongolian choir. She came and said, wow, that is a hill song. And then the Indonesian choir director came and said, Benny, I recognize this worship song. Then a Uzbek dance group, they came and said, Benny, this is a worship song. You know, I was able to meet up with at least about 10 different Christians just because I played My Jesus, My Savior, Lord, There Is None Like You. Now, had I been singing, I would not be allowed to do that. But because it was an instrumental piece, I was able to play that. And same thing with the Olympic Games. I played at the Military World Games in Hyderabad at the Gachibowli Stadium for the opening ceremony. And again, I played I Stand Amazed in the Presence of Jesus the Nazarene. Today, when I look back, I've played at the different beauty pageants and so on and so forth. I've seen that simple thing like instrumental music has been a tool in sharing the good news. Here I'm sitting at Chai 316, and we have designed it in a very unique way so that when people walk in, one of the common things people have said when they walk in is they said, I feel there is so much of peace and there is so much of warmth. We were even raided once by the police, and the police came and said, I feel there is so much of peace here that whenever we have problems, we want to come and share our problems here. Imagine, it all went into how we design it. That is also a form of art. And I want to conclude with this. If from Exodus chapter 31 and 36 to 39, we know of a very incredible skilled artisan called Bezalel. And he was the chief artisan who was in charge of designing the Ark of the Covenant. If the Ark of the Covenant is all about your heart and God, why did God spend so much of time and details in designing that? Because God believes that all of this is part of bringing glory to him. As much as you you design your shirt, you write a song, you prepare your sermon, I believe every bit of art is an act of worship to Jesus. That's why today I say my performance is an act of worship to Jesus, rather than saying, okay, this does not fit into my understanding of art and hence that is not worship, but all the other things. No, everything. But ultimately, the bottom line it comes down to is whatever you do, whether you eat or drink, you do it to the glory of God. And that's what the book of Corinthians says. So that is the bottom line is, if I am bringing glory to Jesus in whatever I'm doing, that becomes an art that brings worship to Jesus.
Thank you so much, Benny, for sharing so much about your own life. I actually see a question from Jurnes. It kind of, is part of the conversation we had. So, Mark, if you can come in here, can you truly separate the local culture from an art form, especially if the origin of the art form itself is Christian? Then would it be left out of the should it be left out of the worship? Should it be um, not included just because of where it's coming from?
Mm. So, I think that comes mostly from our Indian context, right? Like, most of our cultural things are in from its religion. So, I think I don't know whether we need to look at things that way, because Jesus came to this world. He didn't ask us to come to heaven, right? He loved us, and he loved our cultures. He loved us everything, and came and dwelt among us. So I think we should not look at uh, I mean th- uh, an art form in that way. Rather than we should I would rather recommend to think about the form and substance. So form is not a problem. Okay, the substance needs to be something that that uh, reflects God, his beauty. So his truth, his goodness, and his beauty. So whether you want to do I think music or dance or anything, yes, there are corruption of substance in many cultural things, but that be redeemed? Can can the art form be redeemed from the corruption of substance? And that's what God is actually restoring. He's not just scrapping the whole world and say, I have a different plan to do. He didn't throw away, he didn't throw us, he didn't throw the world. He is actually restoring everything back. So that's what the gospel is about. So I think we need to look art forms or cultures or any traditions in from that perspective of form and substance. We need to redeem the form by changing, by bringing truth and goodness and beauty into it, and removing the corruption on that. Okay, so if it is Bharatanatyam, yes, it has a very cultural meanings to it. Okay, but can it be redeemed? Okay, it can be, because cultures are not static, they keep changing, they keep evolving. Now we have a Bollywood genre and music and all, but when did it come? It came, it was not there forever. So I think cultures keep changing, culture keep, we say namaste. Should we as a Christian say that or not? Because namaste is a very Hindu philosophical idea that it has, but we don't connect it now to that. So we do say namaste in a very different meaning altogether. So I think the meanings change, the cultures transform, and but we don't throw the baby with the bathwater, right? So forms, music, is, Paul says, no, whatever is true, whatever is good, whatever is excellent, let your mind be upon that. So let us not look at the form. Let us not look at um, uh, 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 have this kind of rock music is bad, or you know kalamkari, or this Warli painting, any cultural thing, or Tanjore painting. Okay, it is very much driven in making idols. But can that be redeemed? Okay, can that art form be redeemed? So that is how I think as a church we need to look. So we can't change. God is not asking us to change the culture. God is asking us to invite him into this culture to redeem it. So God is not just redeeming our souls, okay? God is redeeming our cultures. God is redeeming our whole world, all things. Okay, in Colossians, you see, God is restoring all things in Christ. So it means cultures too. It means our vocations too. It means our businesses. It means our politics, govern everything. God is restoring. So I think we need to invite God into our thing, rather than, I think the church has made a mistake of removing our local cultures and adopting the Western cultures, which I think is unnecessary. Of course, there might be influences of Western thing, because we are a global citizens. There are influences. We can learn things, but I think we labeled it as Christian means, okay, you do choir, but not satsang or something else. Okay, so that has, I think we have we did not understand probably. So we try to so that's why people say, oh, you Christians eat cake, but so we identify ourselves unnecessarily with this wrong notion. So I mean, what is Christian? Western is Christian? I don't know, because we got the gospel probably from the Western cultures, but God, there's nothing gospel is not at all Jewish. They really, the early church didn't want it to make it anything Jewish. They want to bring the kingdom of God into their cultures. They said, Jewish traditions, no, you don't need to follow them. So I think gospel has to be very authentic to the culture that it is belongs to. And that is how the authenticity is. That is how we say that Jesus loved us, and he came to us, and he dwelt among us. And I think, so don't make the mistake of changing leaving the culture that we are, but redeem it, but not imitate it, rather, yeah, redeem it.
Sure. Let me just extend that question also to Debbie and Benny. Should the church adapt to accepting all local cultures and influences, including art, as we call it? We see this used by many churches that are entering new spaces or trying to appeal to younger, diverse groups. Is there a line that should not be crossed? And more importantly, who draws that line? Sorry for some of the disturbance that happened just now. Debbie, would you like to take that first?
Oh. Mm. What was the question? What was the question?
Sorry, there was a little bit of disturbance that happened in between. Should the church adapt to accepting all local cultures and influences, including art? we see many new churches trying to use art or new techniques to try and appeal to younger, more diverse groups. But is there a line that you think should not be crossed? And more importantly, if there is a line, who draws that line?
Mm. Um, I think that it cannot be generalized. I feel like different elements in a particular culture might not be appropriate from our Christian point of view. Like even God, like what Mark had said, God transforms himself to human culture. And I feel that also on the other side, the gospel can transform any elements of culture to glorify God. Like I can speak from I was sharing with you from our Mizo cultural context. At the beginning of Christianity, like almost all our cultural elements that was connected with worshiping the devil were abandoned. Like we feel like when you say Western culture, we feel that that's Christianity. And we abandoned everything that we know. And like traditional drums, like I've shared with you guys, like different kinds of dances, and we have festivals, and we abandoned all of that. And drinks and entertainment also, we abandoned those things. And it was only after the outbreak of revivals that traditional culture started coming back into Mizo Christianity, and in a new force. You know, it creates a new kind of Christianity among the Mizos. So the the three elements like traditional drums, national hymns sung to indigenous tunes, and revival dance. We have a revival dance, and it emerged out of the revivals. This clearly shows that our cultural identity integrated with Christianity. And for the second part, where is there a line that must not be crossed? Um, I don't know what is crossing the line. It could vary from culture to culture. I think, yeah, it could vary from culture to culture, and every culture have their own social control, like how we dress, how we, how we identify with other people, and I think the line is drawn by our own culture, and we can also say that our own church tradition draws the line also. And the way we think is determined by our culture, the way we think, and the way but as Christians, our perspective and our thoughts should be determined by the teachings of the Bible. That's what I feel. And uh, we have to think about, is the thing that I'm doing give glory to God? What I'm using, what is our goal? And uh, is our passion for music or doing something is that only for the purpose of entertaining other people, or is it gaining a name for ourselves? So I think we have to really think about our intentions. Our actions, our gifts, and our talents should be used to bring people closer to God. And I feel like even rock music nowadays, we use it to glorify God. And like Cliff Richard had said, why should the devil have all the good music? Even rock music, we can praise God with rock music. We can praise God with rhythm and blues. We can praise God with gospel rap. So I think it depends on our intentions, and I think we should think about our actions and what we're using. Is our goal to glorify God? I think that is the most important thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. Benny?
Yeah. See, just a few things to keep in mind, that you have the one segment of people in redeeming culture. I'm talking just purely from the Indian perspective, where they have done a lot in terms of trying to appeal to the local community, and changing everything from the communion to having satsangs and the dress code and everything. And then you have the others who have this form of understanding of Christianity purely from a Western point of view. Now, I would say that first thing is we have to really build a bridge between the two, uh, because there is a big gap between the two, where one segment who have the understanding of redeeming art, redeeming culture, have gone to that extreme where they've just termed the others who have grown up for 50 years, 60 years, singing and doing certain things the way that they do it, like taking communion by removing the footwear, or singing songs that are much more solemn and reverential, which are considered to be more holy, rather than singing songs that are fast paced, which are much more entertaining rather than reflective. And you see, there is a gap with the understanding. So I would say that the first segment is those who have really gone into redeeming and using indigenous uh, art form to bring worship to Jesus. See, one is if you're doing it to a particular area, then you focus on that. But please don't impose it to someone who's been used to doing things for 50 years by saying what you're doing is Western and what we are doing is more Indian. And that should not be the case, where you are really causing friction when there is no necessity for doing that one. If somebody thinks that being calm and being still brings more worship to Jesus, so be it. But imposing, saying, until and unless I play my Taylor guitar, that is not worship. No. So it is important for us not to impose that part, or using tabla, or using the sitar, or Bharatanatyam, or anything. Now, the other side is that if you are trying to bring this change with our indigenous form of worship and art, try to educate the other person before you come to conclusion. Now, I'll give an example. My first two albums, instrumental albums, were purely Western classical, with the orchestra, a guitar, style of playing. And suddenly God overnight changed my heart. Overnight, I was dead against using Indian instruments as an art of worship. I love them, but it was not for worship. Overnight, literally overnight, is 24 hours, God changed my mindset. My third album, When the Music Fades, is when I used completely Indian instruments, from tabla to dholak to kanjira to sitar to Indian alaps and ragas. And even the studio engineer was shocked. He said, Benny, what happened to you? I said, God gave this revelation that all of this belongs to him as an art of worship. We might give different definitions, but all of this. And God gave me the wisdom to bridge the two, because I am using a song that is so-called Western, which is acceptable in the Christian church, but I'm using a form of art which is much more Indian traditional, which is kind of shunned by the church. So, including my own father, he was telling, what is wrong with you? What is this one and this? And, like I wrote a song called Tribute to the Unknown God. And people are saying, God, why are you writing this song? I said, no, this is from the Bible, from Acts 17:23. And I used a Bible verse translated into Sanskrit. And my father says, no, this cannot be Christian. And I had to tell Dad, this is from the Bible. And then there was this whole challenge for people saying, yes, Benny, you have gone away from our understanding of what the Bible and the church is, but then you are doing all worship songs. So they could not even say that you are doing something that is devilish, because why will someone who is devilish play coming back to the heart of worship? It is just conflicting. So from that album onwards in 2004, I was able to slowly introduce that to the church by saying, even this can be a form of art and worship unto the Lord. And ultimately, it really comes down to that part is, are we willing to help someone who is ignorant, to help them to understand what it is, rather than imposing and saying, my form of worship is much more purer and indigenous, and their form of worship is much more adulterated. No, it has to really come down to that one. So I think that with what Mark and Debbie said is so true. But we need to really help our fellow brothers and sisters to understand what it means to redeem our culture and bring worship to Jesus. And there are certain things probably we are not ready right now at this point. Might be after a certain point, we might slowly be progressive in recognizing that this can also be a form of worship to Jesus.
So, because of the conversation we had when we were discussing the webinar, this actually leads to the next point that we wanted to talk about. What is unchristian? Is Christian only being extremely reverential? For a church like ours, which is an Orthodox church, which claims 2,000 years of history, drums in the church or even a tabla in the church may be a no-go. But for some other churches, that is perfectly normal. But maybe audiovisual is not okay, or beatboxing is not okay, or hip hop is not okay, or like Debbie said, rap is not okay. What is acceptable? What is not acceptable? What is Christian in that sense? A lot of people tend to use the terms unchristian, even though, as the Bible tells us, the talent itself, as the parable tells us, the talent itself comes from God. So how can it be unchristian to use it for worship? How do you reconcile such extreme views when it comes? Benny, because you were talking on something quite similar. Can you first address it, and then maybe Mark can come in? You're muted, Benny.
Yeah. Now, while this thing came up, I was reminded of my time in Honduras. And Saturday evening, I had a concert in the nightclub. And on Sunday morning, I am preaching in the largest church of Honduras. Now, what a contrast that is, And but I went. It was a paid concert. People came to pay to come to watch me in the nightclub, where all the alcoholic drinks are there and everything. And I'm here with my guitar, playing my instrumental music, sharing my testimony of what the Lord did. When we are excellent in what we do, we will be accepted in every place, in every platform. I've spoken at Miss India Campus Princess Beauty Pageant for I think 3 or 4 times. I get to sit down with these pageants and talk to them. And people sometimes wonder, how can you be a pastor and end up sitting with people who dress differently? And here, in this nightclub, so-called unchristian that we think of, is a mission field. See, we want to reach out to people, but we are not going there. But if we don't go there, who else will go? People say, oh, joining politics is unchristian, but yet we complain about corruption in our country. I tell people, I'll tell the world, in fact, that, the reason why politics is dirty is because there are no clean people. See, we need to not mix up this unchristian and Christian and everything, but first of all, we need to recognize what is God's call on our lives. And then, so I went to this nightclub, I performed, and there was this girl, literally hardly any clothes on her body. She came and she said, Benny, I was really so moved by your story. And she said, I want to know more about what God has done in your life. And I told her, tomorrow morning I'm speaking at this church. Why don't you come? And I want you to be my guest. She says, oh, but I don't have church clothes. I said, no, you can dress the way you are. You be my guest, which means you'll sit next to me in the church, and I will introduce you as my guest. All I want you is to come and listen to me. And I tried to convince her, but sadly, for her, she thought that she was not good enough to come to church, because in the church we have these terms saying this person has the look of a Christian and the other person, he looks unchristian, hence they cannot be acceptable. We want to reach out to the world, but when are we going to accept people the way they are? And like that old saying, somebody wrote this, it's not there in the Bible, it's a bumper sticker where it says, be ye fishers of men, you catch them, he will clean them. It is God's duty to clean us and to make us holy and righteous. But I think that we really need to uh, shift our mindset in understanding that we are all called to being in missions, and we are all called to using everything that we can to reach out to somebody. If it means going into the nightclub, if it means going and being a beauty pageant, if it means joining politics, if it anything, the part becomes holy because of greater is he who is in us than he is in the world. So when you go and participate in that place, you are carrying the holiness and the righteousness of God in you to bring a difference. And I'll just conclude with one more, and then Mark can continue. I remember playing at the Paralympic Games in London in 2012. So again, I got invited because at that point only 40% of my lungs were working. So I qualified to be a performer for the Paralympic Games. And at the Paralympic Games, there was a Canadian comedian. He's half paralyzed on one side, and the other side he looks normal. He has had a very bitter experience with God, so he made real bad jokes about God and demeaning jokes, and people laughed and everything. And after that came my turn, where I was playing songs, hymns on my pan flute and sharing my testimony. And in the end, when we were walking back to our rooms, the same man who talks such bad things, he started to hum "How Great Thou Art." And he said, "Benny, that is such a beautiful hymn. It brought back my childhood memories." You see, I could really use even that place to somehow help this man to restore his little bit of his understanding of how great God is. So we can use any form, any place, by us being the carrier of light, rather than saying this is Christian and this is unchristian, and else let us not get into this one and let's just purely be on this side.
Thanks, Benny. Mark, you want to come in here?
Yeah, so that's Benny has said it, but I would like to use these words which were very common in our culture. I mean, globally, this is not just India. Sacred and secular. Okay, so the idea of something that is sacred, which has really, I would say, really brought a lot of theological corruption in our theology. So of course, I think people said, okay, you're a pastor, you're a priest, that is a sacred duty, or that's a sacred calling, that's a higher calling. Okay, but if you are a musician or a engineer or a janitor or a lawyer or a politician, you are okay, you are not of that higher calling. So that is completely dishonors God. That is completely dishonors the gospel, because God has I said, redeem all things. Okay, it is not just a spiritual. Okay, it is your personal, your everything, your of your being is to be because you are the temple of God. Okay, so it doesn't mean that only I become a temple of God when on Sunday morning. So I am a temple of God when even on Saturday or Friday evening, okay, or Monday morning. So that understanding was missing. So that is the reason something called Christian or unchristian. So there is something holy or unholy. Yes, that is right. Okay, there is something good and evil, but there is nothing called Christian or unchristian. If rather you say, yeah, holy things are Christian, okay, but I don't know whether all Christians are holy, or so we have this wrong conception of sacred secular that has really of course the Reformation, Martin Luther and all these people have tried to address that there. Okay, so that time I think artists started painting common people. Okay, before that it was only you have the church paintings commissioned by the church. Afterwards, artists Van Gogh started painting slaves, Yeah, so I think it has changed some bit, but I think we still hold to that. Even today, there is a sacred secular mindset, secular profession or sacred profession. So I think we have to really have written a lot about it. So I think we need to really get out those things, but come to clear understanding of vocation, understanding of living for God, honoring God, worshiping God, because God is in us. My body is his temple. He said in John, no, we will come and live with you, inside you. Jesus and the Father will come and, so he is in my house. I mean, the kind of thing, how do I behave? Everything what I do has to be honoring him. Okay, so that is the thing that we need to understand. Then I think this problem will not come.
Sure. Because you already mentioned the term that I'm coming into, let me get a little anecdotal. This is the last question for all three of you. Let me get a little anecdotal. Often I find that even in my community, Syrian Orthodox Church, parents will be like, "Oh, it's very good. You should dance. And, you can sing in church. Oh, that's very good to use your skills. You can dance. Oh, you can speak in church. Very good." You tell them you want to take that as a career. The same talents that God has given are not good enough for you to make it a career, to become a musician, to become a dancer, to become a dancer in a secular setting in that sense. Is it necessary to just restrict your expression to what is Christian art and Christian artists? Because you guys have all touched upon it in different points, but because I'm using the anecdote over here, is it necessary for us to only define ourselves in a very limited manner, even though the talent itself is meant to be used as an expression? As someone who's done theater, I have done absurd plays where I'm talking about um, Inesco's asking questions about God, about Beckett talking about waiting for Godot. All of those questions have, you know, resonated with me at a certain point in my life when I struggled with my faith, with using my faith. But at that point, there were people who kind of dragged you back in, kind of made you use your skills back in church so that you find your way, kind of asked you to use your skills. So this is very anecdotal in that sense, but is it necessary that you only use your skills in in a church or in a worship sense and not in a broader sense make a career out of it? Debbie, if you want to go first, then Benny, and then Mark.
Thank you, Bijoy. I remember a book that Philip Yancey wrote, Finding God in Unexpected Places. Our God is not small, He is not in a box, and He is big. And that came to me while Mark and Benny were while they were sharing. And I would just like to say that the first important thing for me when it comes to, you know, mm, to have a relationship. I mean, I think that one's life should be aligned with the gospel. And for me personally, I can't say for everyone else. For me personally, uh, in my identity in Christ is most important for me, and I can't say for anyone else. And then it is more important than my identity as being an artist. So wherever I am, I just wanted to praise God, and I wanted to see lives being changed. And for me, that is what I want to do. But I can't say that people who use their talent in secular platforms or um, they use their talents as a career, I cannot make a restriction for them, because I believe that God can use that also, use that everywhere. I've seen people being touched in a place where, they have concerts, and I've seen God work through, you know, I would like to share one mm, what is it? One thing, I was I was working with one prostitute, and I was also working with one drug addict. I became friends with them while I was doing gospel elsewhere. I was singing gospel everywhere, gospel songs everywhere. But I used to help them, and I didn't want to um, share the gospel with them. I didn't want to scare them away, but I just wanted to be their friend. I just wanted to know how God works, because if I don't preach, if I don't sing, I know that God could work. And I feel, and whenever I went home, I would just pray. I would just pray that God would touch these people, but I couldn't share the gospel with them. I all I could do was just be there for them. So I I have yeah. Uh, okay. All I could do was just be there for them. So after a while, well, I was in this very big function and I was singing. I was with my friends, my gospel singers friends. And while I was coming out of the hall, there was a lot of people. And this one prostitute, she was standing there and she was calling me, "Hi, friend." And all my friends were laughing at me. But after a while, I, I knew from friends that she became clean, and she didn't use she was not a prostitute anymore, and she have a job. And I was really amazed because I know that God could work in mysterious ways. And uh, and also the drug addict, he went to gospel camping without me preaching about the gospel. So I know that God could work in mysterious ways, and you just have to be present. You just have to be there. So for God to use you, you just have to be in the places where, unexpected places for a Christian to be. But I think that God could work in mysterious ways. So God could transform. Yeah, He could transform um, anything. He could transform lives and any platforms, any careers. I think God could use it, and I think that they could use that for uh, conviction and commitment, and they are for witnessing for Christ. And I believe that we can use all those things to glorify God.
Thanks, Debbie. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing those examples. They just completely resonate with all that we have been discussing. Benny, you want to come in here?
Yeah. See, we cannot really limit God based on our limitations. And that is where the problem comes right now. Like, for example, if a musician was working in the night and hence not able to come to church on a Sunday morning, he is termed as the greatest sinner. But the same thing, if a doctor is working overnight or a nurse is working overnight and cannot come to church on Sunday morning, that is acceptable. Now, again, another thing, a musician who is earning by playing music to support his family, who is a Christian, is not acceptable. But if a banker is working for a particular bank run by a person from another faith, is acceptable. Now, tell me, is there everything Christian in the church? Is the fan Christian, the microphone Christian, the guy who built the brick company, the cement company, the food? We are eating rice, Sri Lakshmi rice. It is not David or Paul, or we don't think beyond certain points. We just have these roadblocks by thinking that this is acceptable and this is not acceptable. But we have to really go beyond that. See, we love the story of the lost sheep. Now, the lost sheep is about leaving 99 and going after that one. And you're zeroing down. This is a specialist story, because anything that is specialist is really small and narrow. And so, God can use you as a specialist in a particular field. And it can be any situation. So as I was listening to Debbie, I was reminded of this story. And this happened in Turkey. I was flying. I was supposed to go from Turkey to Azerbaijan, and I reached on time to the airport. Everything was good, but in Turkey those days the smoking was allowed in the airport, and I had inhaled so much of smoke, and at the time with my 40% lungs, I got intoxicated, or I don't know what the medical terms are, but I overslept. I slept so much. The flight left at 11:30 in the night, and I woke up at 11:40, and I'm at the boarding gate. Unlike in India, they announce your name till the last person here. I don't know what happened, but I was just sitting there. 11:40, I just suddenly woke up, and I told the person at the boarding gate. They said, "Sorry, the flight is gone." And I gave them my medical history and everything, and they were least bothered. They said, "Don't worry, you pay the penalty. Tomorrow evening at 11:30, you can take the next flight." I was so disappointed. And I hate to spend money unnecessarily. Being a missionary, I live on a small budget, so everything mattered. So I had to pay extra $120 for changing the ticket. I had to go and look for a nearby cheap hotel to stay. So next day I was all energized, and I came back to the airport, but still very disappointed. Why did God allow this in my life? I said, "God, I don't see a purpose even in this difficult situation where I've spent extra money." And there was this girl carrying a violin. She was 22, I think, if my memory is correct. And I looked at her and I said, "Oh, do you play the violin?" What a silly question. But just to start conversations, you have to be silly sometimes. She said, "Yes." And then she saw my guitar. She said, "Do you play the guitar?" I said, "Yes." And we started to talk. And then I told her, "Why don't you play a song for me?" And she said, "Oh, but I have not brought my music sheet." And then she said, "Why don't you play?" I said, "Oh, I can play by ear, but I can't read music." And she was shocked. She said, "How can you do that?" Because for me, being a classical musician, I must have my sheet. So I started to share my story about how God became a music teacher at the age of 19. And we exchanged email. I started to write to her. She was from Israel. She started to share her story that she was a Jew, and after a certain point, she lost her faith, so she became a Muslim. And after a certain point, she lost her interest in Islam, and she was at the point of becoming an atheist, wondering, what life is all about. During that time is where God brought me into her life by sharing the gospel. And after 3 months, she wrote an email to me saying, "Penny, since I met you, I've started to read the Bible, and I've never felt God so close to me." So you see, God used a situation that is not very pleasant to help somebody know God even more better in their lives. If God can use a situation like that, how much more he can use your profession, your career, anything for that matter. But again, the bottom line is we need to be centered in Christ. That is very important. Wherever we are, we have to be centered in Christ. Unless we have that root, that foundation, we can easily fall into temptations. Why parents tell children, "Don't get into modeling, don't get into politics," because you can easily get into the worldly activities, because you can easily get into corrupt activities. You can easily lose your faith. The reason why they want you to take up a nice comfortable job is because you can still remain the Christian that they're expecting. But if you want to bring a change to the world, you must go there. Jesus went to the Samaritan woman. He did not expect the Samaritan woman to cross the border and come. Jesus broke every rule over there. Being a Jew talking to a Samaritan woman alone at a well, there are so many red flags out there. But, Jesus had a plan. He took a longer route rather than a shorter route to reach his destination because he had a plan. So God has a plan for everyone. You are an intellectual person. We run the apologetics DTS here at Chai 316. Our goal is to really use the intellectuals of the society to sit down and talk to people rationally and intellectually and share the good news through that. No, rather than waiting for some problem, some leg to be broken or some, COVID to hit and then share the gospel. A person who is healthy and wealthy also needs Christ as much as a person who is completely broken without a job, and that's what we try to do is everybody is designed to be the carrier and to be a witness of the gospel, whether you're a full-time pastor, so-called, or whether you are working in an IT firm or you're working as a watchman, everyone has a place. The Naaman's maid, the servant girl, she had a role in bringing the gospel to Naaman, the captain. So God has a place for everybody.
Thank you, Benny. Mark, next is you. But before that, if anybody has a question, please drop it in. I've tried to bring in the questions and the pointers that were showing up on the chat box as the session was on. I've been enjoying myself for the last hour and a half, but we run the risk of running out of time completely because we're just sharing experiences. So if anybody has any pressing questions to ask, please drop it into the chat box. Mark, you have the last word here.
I think Benny has really covered. I think there's a concern. One problem with going to maybe a Bollywood industry is our idea of sacred secular, which says that is secular and you are called to do thing. And I don't know why you treat farmer and I don't know why you don't treat farmer in that way because there is farming is sacred or secular. So, but there are some reasons people say because there are a lot of different temptations there. You have to. You have to manipulate things. You have to do many things that is not pleasing to the Lord. So until the Lord calls us to be there's nothing that God doesn't call you there. I think God calls us some people to be there as His people, to not only be as Christian there, but rather transform the place there. Okay, so I think in Lucas film industry, he the way that he treats his staff, his crew, his everything has so much impact in how the Hollywood industry has changed, because he has really, I don't know whether how much believer he is, but actually he has a very biblical based understanding of even taking care of the families, pension, all these things, the systems. So I think when you are there in that industry, God puts you there as a light. It's not just for you to survive there, but to transform it. Somebody asked the same thing, redeeming culture rather than changing it. I think when you redeem it, you bring the transformation. Like suppose why I really said is the current day's church, missionaries came and started healthcare systems in India. Okay, they started hospitals, everything. Okay, and when people now, even missions hospital, it seems I was talking to people, even though that is not a COVID hospital, people want to go there only to get treated because there's trust. The mission hospital is going to do, going to do their job well, even though it's not a COVID hospital, even though the oxygen is less there. Okay, but today we have the church have really given the healthcare system to the kingdom of the devil, because we don't want to start any hospitals. We have closed down many hospitals, and we have get ourselves away from it. Even the schools, education system, we have given it to the kingdom of darkness. And now we have this crisis, or now we have the educational crisis, the healthcare crisis. It is because we have restrained being there. You want to say why Bollywood movies are wrong? They will be wrong. why would they do a Christian films, or why would they do something that you want to honor or respect? Because there are no Christians there. So until unless you go there and be there as as a witness and as a light there, and bring truth, goodness, and beauty in filmmaking, in managing films, in producing films, in all these things, which needs a lot of sacrifice, which is a lot of failure, which is a lot of hard work. Maybe one generation guy will not even succeed. Maybe the next generation you will see some success. Until we put that hard work in being there, we can't change the culture. Culture changes only when you do more of it. I think Andy Crouch says. So even though if we say, um, if you want tap dance is a completely, we remember one tap dancer who in the US, he came and performed at Benny's place. If you say tap dance in India, it's like people just say, stare at you. Okay, but if you really invest on it, have tap dance schools, have tap dance academies, and performances and all these things, slowly culture will change, and you will have tap dance as Indian tap dance or whatever it is in the days to come, 20 or 30 years. So I think God wants you to go there and be that, not only be holy and to yourself, but rather make that light shine in the darkness. Then we will see good politics, good movies, good healthcare system, good education system. Then and we need to be there as an individual and as a community, and that's how the churches needs to fund. You pay what you get, right? So if you as a church invest in good movies production, or good song production, or even help the culture to put money there, then you will see change. So I think it is a lot of, it's an ecosystem. So we need to, our calling is to redeem. God's work is to redeem the world, right? And we are his church, and we are called to redeem by discipling people. And we have to go there to disciple. We can't be in our church and disciple a film guy. So we have to be, what is discipleship? Basically showing them how you live, and ask them to live that way. That's it. Okay, so it's not teaching Bible study session on the church. So that's why I think we need to be there. But it is not for everyone to be doing everything. As Benny said, there are challenges. Until God places you there, you cannot be faithful. So I can't be, definitely I can't be, though politics is, Christians need to be there, it's not for me. I can't be, I'll be a useless politician. So in the same way, know God's calling, and listen to him. And yeah, it is not a profession. Like, you say, I am a musician, and it's not a career. God's calling is sometimes, seriously speaking, I am not a good writer. But I took that just a couple of years back and started faithfully doing it. I never trained as a writer. I never want to call myself a writer, but I'm doing that work. So it is not a profession. I studied fine arts, therefore I need to be an artist. No. Benny didn't study music professionally, as he said, but he is God called. So sometimes I think it is the leading of the Lord. And fisher of men, they were fishers of fishing people, and God took them and made them fishers of men. So I think in that way we need to be there, but we need to see God as leading us, not our ability. We can't change Bollywood. I can't change Bollywood. No great Christian can change Bollywood or any culture. It is God through us. So yeah, I think.
Thank you, Mark. Because as there are a lot of other words that have come up in the chat box, but at some point Reena said we have to be present in those places. In some senses, we really need to be present in those places.
Right. And at the end, I want to say is after this thing's over, I want to make a comment, which I thought,
Sure.
can I do now?
Make it now.
Yeah.
Make it now.
So what I actually want to encourage artists here is, if you're artists here, current time is where India is actually struggling. it's dying basically. It's the kind of situation that I would not have accepted to be here, but I thought I want to speak this to artists here, that how can you help the help the culture and the country in this time of grief, lament, and suffering. How can you as an artist lament with your neighbor? How can you as an artist to grieve with our grieving churches and our neighborhoods? Okay, think about this. Because I think there's a lot of things an artist can do. My friend, one classical musician, pianist, organist actually, pipe organist in Japan, he was in the tsunami work. He just drove his truck to provide. So he went to a center where all the people were gathered. It's a big shed, and nobody's talking, nothing. I mean, it's a very bad, sad situation where people lost everything, and they are brought there. And there was a piano in that hall at the end, and somebody asked him, "Why don't you play?" He was hesitant. Why should we play piano now? People are mourning, people are in fear and loss. And then he did play few, I think Bach he played. And the whole after a couple of after one number or two numbers, I forgot the story details, but he the whole atmosphere of the space has become so free and so what you call hopeful. And they asked him to play more. Okay, so of course this music helps in therapy. So music gives you, that has its power, but not only as a therapy, but also I was thinking like David, most of the Psalms are laments. Okay? 1/3 of the Psalms are laments. Jeremiah was weeping about Jerusalem. Jesus was weeping. Hannah was weeping. You know, what as an artist, how can you weep with your Jesus wept, uh, even though he knows that he is going to make a miracle, do a miracle there and raise Lazarus. He wept because I think my friend Marco who says is that he wept because he knew that they need his presence more than his miracles there. Okay, so can we as an artist be with our communities in this time of grieving? Yes, in this time of support, we need to give all the kind of help, but also be with them. I don't know how. I don't know. I don't give a solution here. Do this, do that. But think about it. Pray about it. As an artist, be there. Bring comfort to these grieving lives in our communities. Yeah, I just leave that to you. So
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Make, for grounding the whole webinar into something that actionable that some people can take away, especially the ones who see themselves as artists. Debbie, I actually had asked Benny also to do it, but because of bad network and tech issues, we can't do it. But Debbie, can you just show us a little bit of art for today? It's almost weird that we talk so much about art and see no signs of it.
Okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I just want to say thank you for allowing me to share about our culture and how God, being a witness for God. And one more thing that I'd like to share with you is that wherever we are, whatever we do, um, we must remember that we are witnesses for Christ. And I am a singer, yes. And also, what is more important is that I am a witness and I am an evangelist. And whether it be a secular platform or a workplace, we should transform them into a place of worship with the gospel. That is what I'm thinking. And I would like to share a song with you. It is one of my favorite songs. My Jesus, I love thee. Um, it's I'll just sing 3 verses. Okay. My Jesus, I love thee. I know thou art mine. For thee all the follies of sin I resign. My gracious Redeemer, my Savior art thou. If ever I love thee, my Jesus, 'tis now. I love thee because thou hast first loved me and purchased my pardon on Calvary's tree. I love thee for wearing the thorn upon thy brow. If ever I love thee, my Jesus, 'tis now, it is now, it is now. In nations of glory and perfect delight, I'll ever adore thee in heaven so bright. I'll sing with thy glittering crown on my brow. If ever I love thee, my Jesus, 'tis now. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Let me tell you, I first time I ever came across Debbie was her singing, and I was outside the hall because I was part of the organizing team, and I ran back in to see whose voice was it, and she kind of just brought the crowd together, and this just took me back there. When I told Debbie to sing, she was like, without music, without a track. I said, trust me, you just need your voice. Thank you so much, Debbie, for doing this. It means a lot that all of you all have taken out time. Brother Benny, just one last thing, because there's a question there, and it's a question a lot of people ask, but I actually remembered something. So I took some time and I was looking at your videos, and there was a lot of conversation about, oh, but why does he have hair like this? Why does he have dreadlocks? What is this? This is not okay. This is not acceptable. I see a lot of people say the same things about tattoos. So, which is why I saw that question and I thought maybe you would like to have a last word. That's the last question we will take for the day. And then we'll kind of just wind down. Just connected those two in my head because these are all kind of seen as taboos. But as Esther is asking over here, people have used it to bring people to Christ, to at least start a conversation. But as Christians, are we allowed to get tattoos? Is it a form of art? Should we treat it as art? You can start from tattoos, but you can make a broader point there, Benny brother. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Now,
I'm throwing.
yeah. No worries. Yeah, I get this question too. For example, with long hair, I can give very silly answers for that. But Bible does not mention the length of the hair to what is long and what is short. According to Mark, I have long hair, but according to Debbie, my hair is short because her hair is longer than mine. So this is a very gray area. That is first thing. Secondly is you have to understand the culture. How come Paul only told the Corinthians about long hair? Why didn't he tell the Galatians and the Ephesians and the Colossians? Why only Corinthians? So we have to understand that these are letters that are written. Now, about tattoos, there's only once mention in the Old Testament. We don't even know the complete context towards that one. But see, my question I would ask with whether tattooing or wearing a particular type of clothing, particular type of jewelry, tattoo seems to be permanent, whereas jewelry can be temporary because you can take it off and put it on. And for some people, tattoo is a form of jewelry or an art too. So I want to tell that just because it's good to ask the question from the back, is just because somebody has a tattoo, does that make them less Christian or more Christian, less holier or more holier? Is the good question to ask before we jump into whether tattooing is okay or no, because we don't have clear, definite information from the Bible. When there is no information like that from the Bible, please don't try to rewrite the Bible, because you have grown up with a certain mindset and understanding. And so that is important with regards to tattooing. See, many times people have a tattoo because they are seeking attention. Either it is because, see, I work with young people here, and many times I've seen the reason why they put a tattoo is either they're seeking attention or it is a sign of being rebellious, because they want to rebel against something and hence they wore a tattoo or they put a tattoo or something like that. And so I personally don't have any tattoos on my body because I have other forms of art to communicate. But if you feel led to wear a tattoo, you have to take responsible decision for what you are wearing and defend your statement why you are doing that. Like for me, with my long hair, I defend why I have long hair. And I'll tell you, so many conversations when I have with people, they have no clue that I am an ordained minister. I don't even tell people I'm a reverend. I go and speak at so many corporate events, and sometimes if the Christians are there, they'll come and say, "Oh, pastor, praise the Lord." And here are others like, "Are you a pastor?" No, being a pastor, I'm speaking for a corporate event. And but I don't go and publish these things, but I wear my hair like this so that I will be acceptable in the places. I go to the prisons. Many times, the prisoners have found something common with me and them, because long hair becomes a sign of rebelliousness also. And so when they look at me with long hair, they think I'm a rock star and I'm a rebellious guy and all these things. But when I share my testimony, it is the opposite of what I am having this outward appearance. So I would say that with the tattoos, if that is the specific concern, is whoever wants to get a tattoo, please keep in mind, you have to be responsible in defending why you are wearing that tattoo. And secondly, if you can do something with your tattoo in sharing the gospel, if that is what you're doing, you should be in a position to defend what you are doing. Because Bible does not have a clear answer on that. Hence, you cannot say that, Acts chapter 14 verse 17. No, you have to be in a responsible position. I've taken a lot of flack for my long hair, but when I look at what my hair has done in terms of building relationships and sharing the gospel, I rather keep those stories and continue growing my hair. But the silliest answer I've given to people when they say, "Why do you have long hair?" I tell them, because it's growing. And so once it stops, then I will stop having my long hair. But I just want to tell you that, don't make the tattoo as a big issue. Go to the root of it. And, having the fruit of the Spirit is more important than finding whether this person has a tattoo or no. No, it is. So let us not major on minor issues, but let us really go towards having the representation of Christ in us. And I just want to conclude with this thing, Bijoy, as Mark was telling about this pianist from Japan. You know, I remember I've been part of many different talk shows, and one of the talk shows, there was a CBI officer, an intelligence officer, and he was telling, and he had just come back from a raid actually that time. So he had a whole night raid, and he came back and he was telling that they had gone to a raid for a very wealthy family, and you know, they were shouting, they were using foul language, they challenged them, they everything, but you know, they raided everything, and then it was a whole night raid. And in the morning when they were leaving, that lady who used foul language and scolded him and did all kinds of things, in the end she told him that, you know, you are a very good officer, and you have been your character has been so wonderful. Now, who can ever say such things after scolding all these things, after being raided, and suddenly you turn back in the end and say that, you know, your character has been incredible? Because this man kept his cool. His character of Christ was exhibited at the harshest climate. And that is where, you know, our Christian identity really comes out. Not at the time when we are lifting hands and praising God on a Sunday morning service. You know, even out there, we are called to having the identity of Christ even in the harshest climate. And that is worship. Not just playing the guitar, but that is worship, when even people demean you. You know, forgiving someone when you know that you are right and they are wrong, and you still choose to forgive them, that is worship. And so let us look at the art of a Christian life holistically, from our character, what is seen and what is unseen, from our talents, how we exhibit, whether you're a bar, nightclub musician, or you're a church musician, what you do with your life, what you do both in secret and the open, that makes a big difference. My mentor is Karen Lafferty. She's the one who wrote the song Seek Ye First the Kingdom of God. And she says that her first person that she led to the Lord was in the bar. You know, people in the bar need to hear the gospel, but please make sure that you go to the bar for the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons. Okay, over to Bijoy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm a horrible moderator because I was just having so much fun just listening to you guys speak, that I have not moderated this session at all. I just kind of, like I told you all, just let this session flow. We are horribly over time. And I say horribly, I mean 45 minutes over time. And I have no complaints with that because of the sheer experience that we were able to draw out of each one of you and the stories we were able to hear, including the last bit about the hair. I think that resonated with so many people on this call. So thank you so much. We're going to run a quick poll at this point. I think Prasansa will come in and run a quick poll. Just wanted to thank all three of you. I know it's been tough for you all to take out time. All of you all are doing things right now that are taking up a lot of time. Mark, I know, is checking his phone because BBMP has to give him beds so that people can, you know, get treatment on time. So I know Mark has been on the phone for in between. So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Benny. Thank you, Debbie. Benny's been such a great help. He was the one person who, even in between recordings, was responding to me. So thank you so much, all three of you, for doing this. And like I said, I'm a horrible moderator. So over to Prasansa so that she can run the poll. Thank you so much for doing this. This meant a lot to me. It's very, very personal to me. So thank you so much.
Not at all, Bijoy. I enjoyed the webinar as much as you did. Thank you everyone Thank you everyone for staying with us until the end of this webinar. So as you can see in your screen, we have launched a poll. So we would like to hear from you, like how did the webinar go? And we would like to collect your feedback. So we request 2 more minutes of your time. Please do attend the questions. And in the meantime, I would like to thank all the panelists, especially for accepting our invitation and being an awesome person to discuss on the very topic. I bet this has been a very interesting webinar to all the participants as well. And as we discussed over the webinar, our God is a creative God, and He does love our creativity, and we can use different form of arts to glorify our God. So I would like to thank everyone again. And so just to give you a brief notice about the upcoming webinar. So we are running this webinar on different topics every month. So in the next month, we would be running another webinar. We will share our details in our Facebook page and in other social media platforms as well. So stay tuned, and we hope to see you next time as well. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
So you can end polling. We can also stop the recording and live.
Yeah. So Stephen, can you do it?